over our warrant operation that APD conducted from Monday through yesterday, and go over the totals on that and talk about the larger warrant operation that we have going, that we've been doing all year, but now it's kind of ramped up with the new state funding. So we'll start off with Mayor Keller. I do want to tell you that at the end of this presentation, we do have a video we want to show you about a shooting that occurred last night, and Chief Medina will say a few words about that. Mayor?
Well, good morning. We today want to provide this update, as Gilbert mentioned, on what we've been doing with respect to warrants. What I want to do is remind everyone, sort of in many ways, how we got to this point. It was about this time last year when we gathered together our Metro Crime Initiative, something we've done for the last 3 years, and we said our number one priority, the number one thing we need help with from the state, was funding for warrant operations. And so this is to go arrest individuals who are already out on warrants, or warrants have already been issued. Now I want to emphasize this because I know, given the events of the past couple of weeks, there's been a lot of things being thrown around about like pretrial detention and different policies that are all part of our Metro Crime Initiative and have been for several years. And we're very glad that this dialogue is now happening about what we can do. But this is a primary example of when we work together, what we can actually accomplish. So this is about people who are felons and there's already a warrant. So in other words, a judge has already said they should not be on the street. So this is different than sort of the pretrial detention issue. Now, to go back to this case that we made about a year ago, we said there are roughly 5,000 of these individuals out on our streets. And we know that in many cases, which we're going to highlight today, including the killing of Froylan, these individuals were not supposed to be on our streets. They already had warrants outstanding. This is why we have to get these folks off our street. They are the most likely to commit an additional violent crime. And so fortunately, last year, the legislature listened, the governor listened, we got funding, and now we are working together with all our partners as of about July 1st, because that's the money just came out in July. So basically from August now to through September, we have ramped up our warrant operations. Our warrant arrests are now up 30% from last year. And we believe that statistically, for every single person that we actually serve that warrant and get them off the street, statistically we are saving lives because there are so many crimes that are committed for folks who already have warrants out for their arrest. So that's what this program is about, and we are grateful that folks listen. Now, obviously, I'm mentioning this because we're going to need help again. We've had many discussions over the last few weeks about what our city needs. We sent a letter with 40 plus items that we could use help from the state and from our state legislature and that our partners are interested in. And so we want to use this as an example. Look, MCI is working what we did last year with respect to getting us all together and funding warrant roundups. And now we need to do the next steps, and those next steps are already outlined. So we know when we actually work together and collaborate, we don't blame each other, we stand with each other, we support each other in law enforcement, and most importantly, we listen to the police. They know exactly what we need to do to make our city safe. And that is what this issue came from. I asked our chief a year ago, I said, what's the number one thing we can do to make Albuquerque safer in the short term? And he said, go out and arrest everyone who's outstanding on warrant. That's where this idea came from. So we hope this is a good example of how we can listen to our officers, listen to victims, and how we can make our city safer. So with more details on this, I'll hand it over to Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank everybody for being here this morning. I'm going to start a little bit with about why it's important. Mayor talked about it a little bit about how he asked us what was important and what would make a difference in the short term. And right off the bat, I said, arresting individuals with felony warrants. During the course of my career and every officer in the Albuquerque Police Department's career, if you speak to them, they will tell you the vast majority of the time when they arrest somebody for a felony crime, the person already has a felony warrant. We could have prevented that crime if that person would have been in jail for their warrant to begin with. And this is thousands upon times that this is happening throughout the year. Right now, I think we've cleared somewhere near almost 3,000 warrants for the year, but don't quote me on that because I'll get you the exact number a little bit later. But as Mayor Keller stated, we arrested 121 people, cleared 105 felony warrants, and made 60 new charged felony arrests in just 4 days during the course of this operation. We did this in two ways. Make contact with individuals if we had a lawful objective, check for warrants. It could have been a traffic stop. It could have been some other crime that was occurring that they came across, and they found that that individual had a felony warrant. For this operation and what will be a larger ongoing operation, we've been working to create a list with the DA's office. Currently, the District Attorney's Office has approved 500 people that we should be searching for to arrest for the warrant operation that we got funding for. Of those 500, 147 of those individuals have already been cleared from the list. We found some were deceased, and we found others were in custody in other places. We found that we took some into custody, and during the course of this 1 week operation, we took 14 individuals into custody. The list has 21 current active murder warrants on it. Most of these murder warrants are from the past couple years. We are looking for individuals with violent crime background, child abuse, criminal sexual penetration, armed robbery, aggravated assault and battery, assault against a peace officer, shooting at or from a motor vehicle, felon in possession of a firearm. And there are some prolific property crimes offenders that we're looking for. We have an auto theft problem in Albuquerque for years, and we are focusing on some property crimes offenders such as shoplifting, auto theft, and possession of a controlled substance. We're providing the names of everyone arrested this week. We're also highlighting the arrest of the 14 individuals that were on the list for the DA's office. Our hope are these subjects will stay in jail, but we've known that APD has long said the biggest problem is that policy that the state of New Mexico and our judicial system has of catch and release, so to speak, may work well at the San Juan River, but it doesn't work in the city of Albuquerque. I hope that we could get our legislators to agree and to ensure adequate service for addicts and individuals suffering from mental health issues are addressed. The Metro Detention Center is the biggest center for drug addicts and for those with mental health concerns, and they need to make sure that they fund the resources. That's a great place to start because the facility is already built and there's already clients there. For now, it is important that we focus on arresting those who have warrants, and I don't care what the warrant's for. Missing court, failure to appear in court, a grand jury indictment. If it's a felony warrant meeting one of our criteria, that person should be in jail. And we are going above the DA's criteria for the warrants, for the state funding, and we're just making sure we take everybody into custody that we can. Finally, I want to emphasize this point. While we work to cut the backlog of warrants, it's important that we recognize that we are charging individuals every single day with new felony charges. And I want to make sure that our officers get the recognition they deserve. Year to date, the amount of new felony charges on an individual and that individual being arrested is up 17%. 2,575 people have been charged with new charged felonies by our officers in the course of their work each and every day. Misdemeanors are a big issue. We hear the biggest concerns in our city, and I'm hearing the citizens of Albuquerque loud and clear. We need to clean up Central. We need to stop shoplifting, and we need to stop violent crime. And we will be announcing an operation for each of those three areas that will be being conducted over the course of the rest of the year. But misdemeanors are a big part of us being able to clean up Central. 8,321 individuals have been charged this year for an increase in 28%. Our officers deserve the recognition of the hard work that they're conducting every day. We've said it for 2 years. We need a revamp, and we need some things done differently in the criminal justice system. I'm not here arguing that everybody needs to stay in jail forever. I'm here arguing that the right people need to stay in jail forever, and that certain individuals need to have access to mental health resources, substance abuse resources. Our goal is to get the right people into custody and have the right people in jail. It's understandable there has been a lot of attention and scrutiny on the death of Froilan Villegas. I want to talk about that incident. The two primary suspects in that case, Jose Romero was wanted since 2020 for a drug possession violation. While it was not a violent crime noteworthy, he had 2 handguns in the car. Nathan Gurley had a warrant since October of 2022 for carrying a concealed firearm without a permit. He was arrested at the scene of a downtown shooting. These individuals should have never been out in the community, and a young man should have never lost their life. And these are incidents where this is beyond the control of the Albuquerque Police Department. We need to make sure that the right people are kept in custody and that there's accountability for everything that you do. As a police chief, I can't predict the future, but I can tell you this: the more and more we work to reduce the amount of people who are out in this community that have felony warrants, and the drug addicts get drug treatment, the mentally ill get mental health services, and the violent criminals stay in jail, Albuquerque will become a safer and safer city for all of its residents. I want to thank everybody for being here today. I particularly want to thank all the individuals who are on the ground getting this done. I'm very proud of the work the Albuquerque Police Department does day in and day out. You saw the results yesterday when we released the stats for the first part of the year. It is showing that our officers are making a dent. They are reducing crime in so many crime categories, even though there are still so many pieces broken in the criminal justice system. If we could just get people detained a little bit more, and we could get individuals to the resources they need, there is no doubt that crime will go down. And I'll once again make this bold statement: you get my average jail population at the jail up to 2,000, and we will see a way different Albuquerque. Thank you.
You want to go to the video now, or we'll show you the video now? Why don't you explain what happened?
You know, we had officers out last night on a traffic stop, and I think it is important that the community see what our officers are up against right now. A couple weeks ago, an LA County deputy who worked for a good friend of mine was leaving a police station and was ambushed and killed outside of his police station. And I know that there's a lot of narratives out there. Sometimes the Justice Department likes to ask why, or they're concerned, why is there an increase in officer-involved shooting? Because there's increased violence against officers across this nation. It's not just the city of Albuquerque, it is also the state of New Mexico. I spoke to the state police chief last week, and he said there is a drastic increase in officer-involved shootings across the state of New Mexico, not just across the city of Albuquerque. And I hope the Justice Department, our monitors, and everybody else who is concerned about the amount of shootings we've had recognize the job is dangerous for our officers each and every day, and there are people out there that want to simply hurt a police officer. I am grateful that no officer was injured last night. I ask for everybody involved in these reform processes to look at what's going on nationwide and recognize our officers shouldn't go through this every day. You know what the most impressive thing about this is? You see a person who is selfless, whose number one concern was to go back into the street and ensure the citizen they were dealing with was safe and get them to a safe place in case that car returned. That officer had cover already. So every single individual who doesn't think that this is a different department in 2023 and that our officers care about the individuals that they're arresting and the citizens of this city and would not put their life down for them, look at this video and tell me otherwise. Thank you.
So So just real quickly before we take questions on overall, we did arrest the individual who fired the shots. His name is Kevin Morales Molina. I have the complaint in my office, but I think it's also online at this point. So if you want additional information on that. And it was actually a shot spotter activation that he was responding to. So that's what they were questioning people who were in the area at the time. So any questions about that or the warrant operation?
Yeah, going back to the warrant operation, I know the mayor mentioned next steps going to be made and that you guys have been coming up with ideas for the legislature in the next session. I wonder if you guys may be able to talk a little bit about what those next steps are that you want to present next session.
Yeah, we should, we can furnish you with a copy of the letter that we sent the governor and the legislators that lists out those 40-plus items to work on. But inside there, look, a lot of them are about fully funding crime fighting in Albuquerque. They should not be controversial in any way. They're literally about money. But one of them is ShotSpotter. You just heard we were able to arrest someone who shot at our officers because of that technology. That technology is only in about 1/8 of our city at best. We should have it in all of our city. All we need is funding for it, and that's exactly the kind of thing we need. So we have different versions of those technologies that support our crime fighters, but there's also policies in there around even how we deal with situations for prisoner transport. There's items in there about behavioral health and mental health. And look, to be honest, we have already shared that about 75% of those items, they're the same items we asked for last year. Now, we do have some new ideas coming in there that are coming out of even California actually is changing the way they're looking at different types of crimes and the way they're providing access to mental and behavioral health. So we have some updates there. Another one is around fentanyl. We do believe there are versions of fentanyl court. There's different names of this, but it's sort of a expedited docket so that if you're dealing, you are taken off the street and prosecuted at a much faster rate. And if you're using, you're forced into treatment. So those are the kinds of things that we'll be working on.
You know, the only thing I want to add is I don't think we've changed what we've said in the past 2.5, 3 years. We've mentioned the same things over and over: pretrial detention, harsher penalties for those individuals who commit violent crime, penalties for individuals who are dealing narcotics, and we could show that there's a nexus to a lot of our violent crime that is related to those topics alone. So I hope that the legislature looks and they recognize that every single one of them, every single one loves to make one comment. You cannot arrest your way out of this. But every single time that crime spikes, people look at the Albuquerque Police Department and say, what are you going to do? And we arrest people nonstop, over and over. And we're voicing, you got to fix the rest of the system. You got to get the resources in place in the other areas. Because they're absolutely correct. We're a short-term fix. We will short-term put people in jail, but the long-term solution is getting people the resources they need.
I would just want to add something too. One of the things we've been talking about is dealing with second-degree murder charges and lengthening the sentences for those, because we have arrested over 200 people on murder charges over the last 2 years, or last year and a half even. We're going to have a lot more cases coming, and I think someone had a story last night about 2 of the offenders we just highlighted on the Froylan Villegas case. Don't even have public defenders yet because they don't have enough public defenders, and they voiced concerns, and even the district attorney's office voiced concerns about not enough public defenders or prosecutors to handle all of these murder cases. So we've been sounding that alarm too. Fund the entire system, fund the prosecutors, fund the public defender's office, because we're arresting them. That was a criticism of APD 2 years ago, I think, is when the legislature told us you need to hold these murder offenders accountable. We're doing that, but we need the whole system to be funded.
You know, for a Spanish-speaking community, es muy importante que nosotros podemos hallar todos que tienen orden de arrestar y nosotros podemos ponerlos en la cárcel. So, gracias.
Any other questions?
Is that video going to be available, or will you send that out?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and send it
Okay.
out right after this.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.